Let's look at Flutter. What is a Flutter and how it's used for mobile development. Flutter is a very recent, relatively recent programming language. The main advantage of Flutter in app development is when you develop code in Flutter, you can run it in Android and in Google and in iOS. So this platform independence is a big advantage of Flutter, and let's look into and what the basics are. So Flutter is an open source user interface toolkit developed by Google for building natively compiled applications for mobile, web, and desktop from a single code base. That's the main advantage. You have a single code base, and you can use it in mobile for Android, iOS, and it can be run on web and on desktop. So that's the main thing. So you create one code base, and that's used for different platforms, and that's a big advantage of using Flutter. And Flutter has it's a open source user interface, as I said, toolkit, and it's based on the Dart programming language. So Flutter apps are written in Dart, which has a specific syntax, and it's very modern and object oriented. It takes in inspiration from different languages, and it's object oriented, developed by Google. And Dart is known for its simplicity, efficiency, and support for just-in-time and ahead-of-time compilation. And it's very dynamic. So any applications you develop with Flutter is very dynamic and it looks modern. And that's the main advantage of Dart. Since it's a relatively new language, it takes in a lot of new technologies used in programming domain, and it's very simple and easy to learn. Flutter uses reactive framework widgets and is composed of widgets, which are building blocks for creating user interface elements such as buttons, text inputs, images, and more. Widgets in Flutter are either stateless or stateful, and it's allowing developers to create dynamic and interactive user interfaces. So it's comprised of widgets. Widgets are nothing but small user interface elements like buttons, text inputs, and images. So these are widgets, and widgets in Flutter are used for stateless or stateful, and these are two concepts which I'll explain soon, allowing the developers to create dynamic and interactive user interface. So the stateless and stateful uh, concept is used to create dynamic and interactive user interface. So if you see, many of the new web pages are very dynamic, and you will see some of the individual elements are quite independent of the whole website. So some of these are used in widgets, which is part of the Flutter framework. So hot reload is one of the key features of Flutter. Is hot reload, which allows the developers to quickly see the changes made in the code and is reflected instantly in the app running on a simulator or a device. This is significantly speeds up the development process and enables rapid iteration. So any change you make in the code, it reflects immediately on the front end, and that's what you call hot reload. And this is significantly speeds up the development process because you are able to see what you coded immediately, and if there are any changes or any errors or anything, you can see the response immediately and you can fix it, and therefore the development process becomes faster. And it has a single code base. That is, with Flutter, developers can write a single code base for iOS and Android applications, eliminating the need to maintain separate code base for each platform, and this results in faster development cycles and easier maintenance. So that's a big advantage. So if you're asking any Android developer, they will tell you that if they are developing an app, then it will run only for the Android platform, and that's a big disadvantage. And for Flutter, if you develop anything in Flutter or Dart, then you have the single code base which runs on both iOS and Android application, which eliminates the need for two different code bases, that is one for Android and one for iOS. This is a very great advantage. Material design and Cupertino. Flutter provides widgets that implement material design for Android and Cupertino for iOS design guidelines. These are design guidelines and ensuring that the app look and feel native on both platforms. So developers can customize these widgets to match their application's branding and design and language. So material design and Cupertino. So material design is a design pattern used for Android, and Cupertino is a design pattern used for iOS. That is how the apps looks like. That's what you call design pattern, and ensuring that the apps look and feel native in both the platforms, because iOS is completely different platform, Android is completely different. So they have a different display and different operating system, etc. So the look and feel, if it has to be the same, then you need a design which is native to both the operating systems. So that's why you use Cupertino for iOS, Material Design for Android, and Flutter supports both these, and this makes it like you run the Flutter code base in the below, and the above is, if even if it is iOS or Android, it looks as if it's a native application, as if like if it will look like this is a completely Android application. If it runs on Android, it will look like if it's a completely iOS application if it runs on iOS, although it has the same code base. As for state management, Flutter offers various options for managing the state in apps, including set state for managing widget state and inherited state for sharing state across widget tree. The third-party libraries like Provider, Block, and Redux for more complex state management scenarios. State management is important aspect, and Flutter offers various options for managing the state in the apps, including set state for managing widget state and inherited state for sharing state across widget area. So there is set state and inherited widget for sharing across various platforms, and the third-party libraries like Provider, Block, and Redux for more complex state management scenarios. Community packages. Flutter has a vibrant community of developers and contributing packages, plugins, and libraries to extend its functionality, and developers can leverage on these packages to add features like networking, database integrations, and animations, and more to their Flutter app. So a lot of things are possible. You have a good community of developers who can help each other, and they also contribute, since it's open source, they contribute packages and plugins and libraries which could be used by others, and we can do networking, database integration, animations, and more with Flutter apps. And as for platform specific features, Flutter provides APIs to access platform specific features such as camera, geolocation, sensors, and platform specific UI components. And this allows developers to build their feature rich apps that leverage the capabilities of the underlying platform. So platform specific features, that means Flutter provides APIs, that is application program interface, to access certain platform specific features such as camera, geolocation, and sensors. These are hardware devices which could be there in iOS or in Android. So how we access these hardware devices will be different. That is, iOS is a different operating system, so it will have a different way of accessing these hardware. Android is a different operating system, so it will have its own way of accessing. So Flutter provides an API access for each of these platform specific components, and this allows developers to build rich apps that is very efficient and leverage on capabilities of the underlying platform. This is something like Java, where you have a middleware, and once you write one code base of Java, it runs on Linux or Windows or any other platform. This is a similar concept in Flutter. So overall, Flutter offers a powerful, flexible framework for building cross-platform mobile, web, and desktop applications with rich set of features, excellent performance, and fast development cycle. So it's a great advantage that you run, and it's very good for small and medium-sized companies. Although older apps or big companies are already on Android, or they would have developed two code bases, that's one for Android, one for iOS. So for them to move to Flutter will be a big energy, like they would have to spend a lot of money on it to move the code base. But for new apps, small and medium-sized applications, it is easier to quickly develop something in Flutter, and then you can launch it in both the platforms, iOS and Android. That's a great advantage with Flutter that can be used if you are developing small apps for your own any of your purposes. So KM Limited is a software services IT company based in London, and we offer services, software services, IT services, also app and web development, including Flutter and other web and app technologies. We provide services to UK and Europe domain, and we can also speak German. I myself have worked on lot of projects in Germany and can speak German. So do contact me or us for any of your requirements at contact@kmtech.co.uk, or do leave a feedback and do check the other courses. And we offer a lot of coachings and trainings for specific requirements, and if you have any coachings or training requirements, you can also contact us. Thank you for selecting this course.